Watkins Glen, a quaint village nestled among innumerable falls along the Finger Lakes region in the heart of New York wine country. The town was made famous for the road races held along the village's main street in the late 40s and 50s, which eventually made their way to the 3.4-mile circuit that is Watkins Glen. The Glen has played host to many racing series, including Formula One and the United States Grand Prix. But this weekend, the Ferrari Challenge North America has descended upon this iconic track for the fourth round of the 2024 championship season. Who will master this old-school circuit and emerge victorious from the weekend? Only time will tell. Hello everyone, and welcome to the Ferrari Challenge North America 2024 fourth round. And here we are at Watkins Glen. Alongside me on the air all weekend, Ferrari brand ambassador Tony Verlander. First time I've been to this place. It really is something special, isn't it?
Yeah, this goes into the same category with tracks like Silverstone, Spa. So Watkins Glen is a special track. A lot of history here. The track itself has a lot of grip. High-speed corners. It suits perfectly our Ferrari mid-engine cars. And look at that Ferrari hospitality over there for our drivers and guests.
Guess where we'll be going for a cup of tea very, very soon. So, Tony and myself, of course, are only 2/3 of our broadcast team, and in the hot seat down in the pit lane, good afternoon, Amanda Busick.
Hey guys, no, you're not mistaking. That is the sound of Ferrari 296 making their way to the grid here at Watkins Glen. It is race day finally for the fourth event on this 2024 season. And we think of competition, it starts right in that Trofeo Pirelli group. The top 8 are separated by just right at 1 second. So you can imagine what those drivers are going to be going through today. Watkins Glen is known as a challenging track. So when you think of the 296 format and what it will be tested on today, a lot of the drivers have talked about the downforce that they're getting out of this Ferrari, about the braking that they're getting out of this Ferrari, as well as giving a lot of props to the tire compound in that Pirelli that is specifically designed for this 296 platform as well. But as the cars get going, we'll see if we can find anyone to chat with. I do see Michael Petromalo down here. He's one of those guys in that Trofeo Pirelli class. He did win a championship in the Shell class a couple seasons ago, but now Michael up in that Trofeo Pirelli group. And Michael, as you take to Watkins Glen here, what are the challenges that faces the drivers ahead and with the heat?
Well, first of all, it's definitely warm in the car, so being hydrated is key. But a lot of high commitment zones here where you just got to throw the car in there and utilize the slopes and the bankings to get the most out of the turn.
Good luck today, Michael. And then another good story, we will see Frank Chang coming into the race. He did have that off in qualifying, but as Frank gets ready, you can see him in the backup car up here. He is third in the points currently, still looking for his first podium on the season. Let's learn about Frank Chang.
I've always been a car guy ever since I was a little kid. It's always been a dream to own a Ferrari, and Ferrari of Seattle, they suggested that maybe I get in the challenge, and then the bug hit me pretty hard, so started doing challenge racing. Actually, my first race was in 2020 at Road Atlanta, and that was sort of my first taste, and I've been hooked ever since. Montreal was a blast, my first time there. It was really fun to race in front of the F1 crowd. That was a real thrill. Great track, all 4 classes together, so it was a little bit chaotic. And mixed conditions, which I love, coming from Seattle. That was a real blast. Hoping to put it all together here in Watkins to get that first podium. This is one of my favorite tracks. I did it for the first time in 2022 with Shell and had some good results that time, so I was really looking forward to come back, especially with the new car. This car is just so much faster and so much more on the edge, so it takes a little bit more determination and commitment to get the best out of it, but I'm really looking forward to this weekend.
So Frank Chang with work to do from the grid today. He's got some overtaking to do, but welcome to round 4 here at Watkins Glen. Our Pirelli and Pirelli Am drivers will be taken to the track momentarily for the first race of the weekend. All the free practice sessions done. All the qualies are done. We are midway through our 2024 season here at Watkins Glen International. From here, we head to Sonoma Raceway in August. Then the Indianapolis Motor Speedway in September. And the Emilia-Romagna region of Italy for Imola and the Finale Mondiale at the mid-October. That will end our 2024 calendar with round 7. So Watkins Glen, everyone told me you'll love the place. It's really, really beautiful, and certainly it has not disappointed. The track then is, as every driver has said, something very special, where the commitment and utter determination absolutely crucial to get the most out of the 11 turns that it offers, and to watch these 296 cars across the curbs is absolutely fascinating and going to be even more poetic in the race. Everyone was indicating that it's going to be a warm weekend, and certainly it is. Track temperature 37 degrees, air temperature 31 degrees, 49% humidity, 11 kilometers per hour of wind, and as we heard from Michael Petromalo at the beginning of the program, stay hydrated before you get yourself in that car and during in the car. So, to get the most out of this Watkins Glen track, let's call upon one of our great drivers, Dave Musial 2.0, to give us a hot lap around Watkins Glen.
Hi, I'm Dave Musial 2.0, driver of the number 31 296 Challenge car with Ferrari Lake Forest, and I'm going to take you for a lap around Watkins Glen International Raceway. Here we are at Watkins Glen, coming up to the start-finish line, and I'm going to brake it right about the 400, hard braking. Going to turn right, get on the apex, get on the gas, let it track out to the left. Going to wait until the end of the curb to turn. Going to hold it down here on the right-hand side up until the end there, make a left, hold it on the left-hand side and let it kind of track out to the guardrail. Now I'm just staying on the gas and going through the gears. Waiting up until right about the 400, gonna hit the brakes, get through the bus stop, go right, then left again, and then just get back on the power, let it kind of track out but not too far, and get it back over to the right, and then get onto the gas once I see the watchtower. And then coming up here, gonna be braking at about the 200, and then just not getting too wide, trying to keep it in. And then letting it track out to the right, get up on the apex there, and then braking right about the 200 again, and then trail braking it in, and then getting back on the power, letting it track all the way out on the left-hand side. And then going to be braking right about at the 200 again up here, and then trail braking it in, getting on the gas, and then letting it track all the way out, using all the road on the left-hand side. Drop it to 4th gear here, and then hold it, and then get back onto the power, let it track all the way out. And then coming up here, gonna turn at the 100 board, and then let it track all the way out. And then coming up here, gonna get back to the left, and then get back on the apex on the right, and let it track all the way out to the left. And that's a lap at Watkins Glen.
Big thanks to the Ferrari of Lake Forest driver Dave Musial Jr. then for giving us his hot lap around this Watkins Glen. Alongside me, Ferrari brand ambassador, top racing driver Tony Verlander. It's all about commitment and big bravery here, isn't it, at Watkins Glen?
Yeah, it sure is. This is a beautiful layout, beautiful track. Track provides on the surface a lot of grip, so drivers need to really trust their race car, and a lot of high-speed corners, even with the long rotation, but you can still open the throttle very early because of the grip. And the secret of this track is really the commitment. Bus stop is an area where you can really lose a lot or gain a lot for the lap time. So this is one of the best tracks in the world.
It was extraordinary because there's almost a juxtaposition in terms of describing this track, because when you watch Dave Musial there, yeah, aggressive and over the curbs, but actually super smooth as well, feathering the throttle, not being too rash or brash in terms of his inputs, and that's also, I guess, critical to getting the most out of this place.
That is a really good point, but it is with the good drivers that you need to be smooth with the steering wheel. If you need to play with the steering wheel all the time, left and right, and the car never settles, it's not the fastest way to go. So even F1 drivers, but even our challenge drivers, if you watch those onboards and you have steady, smooth hands with quick reactions, though, that's the key to be fast.
Well, the qualifying programs, if you watched those earlier on today, were almost as entertaining as the races are likely to be, because there was lots of drama in the qualifying as well. And the qualifying session's just 10 minutes long, short and sharp. It means the drivers have got to perform, and they've got to perform very, very quickly. But some of the fastest lap times coming right at the very end of qualifying, which makes it oh so entertaining for us. So brilliant stuff from qualifying, and we were expecting the same from the races. Trofeo Pirelli, first of all, the mix of Pirelli drivers and Pirelli AM drivers that take to the track. The Pirelli drivers, of course, with the red strip across the top of the windscreen, easy for you to identify. And for the Pirelli AM drivers, they will have the white strip across the top of the windscreen. As we look at the number 55 car of Roberto Perena, just missing out on pole position but taking P2. He was just bested by Jason McCarthy at the end of the qualifying session. And I was talking to Roberto at lunchtime today, and always good to talk to him. Now, Dylan Medler, young whippersnapper that Dylan is, 7.5 foot tall, damn near, Tony. He's a big fella, isn't he? And he is just loving his racing in the Ferrari Challenge, and we're seeing that in terms of the results and leading the championship going into this round. He was racing just last weekend in Europe as well. He's getting a lot of seat time in these wonderful 296 Challenge cars, and every driver absolutely loving these cars. They are such a good racing car, and Dylan Medler, he's going to be one to watch from P4 on the grid. Don't rule out overtaking from that young man as well. So he was just bested to P3 by Matthias Kompak, another young driver that I spoke to at lunchtime today, and he had an off during one of the free practice sessions. So critical for a racing driver is when mishaps happen, as they do from time to time. It's picking yourself up from that and being ready to go again, Tony.
Yeah, it is true. So just keep focused and back to the rhythm as quickly as you can. Mistakes, errors, they too occur, and it's important to continue. On the technical side from qualifying, Dylan Medler said they made some changes from yesterday and it didn't work out in the qualifying, so interesting to see his performance. He's starting from P4, as you said. Also, Matthias Kompak said the tire pressures were too high. When the tire was sort of ready to go, he needed to wait a few laps, struggling for the grip, and when was the time to go for the fast lap, the pressures were already too high. So interesting to see the second row of these young drivers, what they can do in today's race.
If you're not familiar with how the tyres work here, and this is something that I've learned over the years, is that, of course, when you're racing and you have ambient temperatures that you've got and track temperatures that you've got, the tyre pressures increase as they heat up, don't they, Tony? So sometimes the team will elect to perhaps start the race with a little lower tyre pressures than would be optimum, knowing that that will come good during the race. So we will see how they develop. Let's go back down into the pit lane right now with Amanda Busick.
Hey, Dave. Well, I know you guys get to hang out in the air conditioning over there, but I think I have the best job on track right now for race one of the weekend here at Watkins Glen. Drivers, start your Ferrari engines.
You'd be a very brave individual to ignore the command of Amanda Busick, and they did, all on perfectly on cue, didn't they? So the engines have started up, and we are getting ready. This is when the anticipation and sense of excitement really builds, because the cars and drivers will be out there on track momentarily. So very much looking forward to the race to come from the Ferrari Challenge. 30 minutes on the clock for our Trofeo Pirelli and Trofeo Pirelli AM drivers to get going. And yes, they'll be off on a formation lap as we look at the Matthias Kompak car there, and also the number 54 car of John Bennett. Of course, the car you're looking at is the number 31 car of Dave Musial 2.0. And then it is the John Bennett car. Just behind them is Joe Rubo, car number 28. Michael Petromalo, who was getting into the car when Amanda Busick had a quick word with him ahead of the race. Big shout out to Brian Cook then, going from P1 for the Trofeo Pirelli AM drivers for Ferrari of Saddle, and it was a really good qualifying from Sebastian Mascaro, and also John Horsch there, P2 and P3. Of course, we'll bring you the grid in full. Now, the Lakeside Pyro Arts car that you can see there is that of Tony Davis, who, in my opinion, has got some overtaking to do as the cars are released then on their formation lap. So, this is the time when big inhale of breath as we get ready to go racing. So the cars coming out of the pit lane then, and ready for their 30-minute race here at Watkins Glen. Ferrari Challenge, Trofeo Pirelli and Trofeo Pirelli AM drivers. Big grid of cars, some 19 cars out there on track, ready for racing. and it's littered with talent and littered with great drivers and super looking cars as well. So very much looking forward to this as the safety car leads the cars away on the formation lap. Here's the grid in full for you. Jason McCarthy, P1, Roberto Perina going from P2 to row 2, where it's Matias Perez Compact and Dylan Medler. It's an all-youth row 2. Dave Musial Jr. and John Bennett go from P5 and P6 on our grid, and then it's Joe Rubo and Michael Petramalo, they're P7 and P8 respectively. Best of the AM drivers, well done Brian Cook. And alongside him is Sebastian Mascaro, great quali. John Horsch with a good quali. He's ahead of Tony Davis. They are P11 and P12 on the grid. To Brad Falva and Omar Balkasoon. They occupy the 7th row of our Trofeo Pirelli AM grid with Michael Mathis and David Musial alongside. Then on row 9 it's Jay Logan and Frank Sesniak. And then back there on the 10th row of the grid, Frank Chang, who we heard from earlier on in our program. He goes from P19. So at this moment then, it's all about preparing yourself for the 30 minutes to come, I'm guessing, Tony Verlander.
Yeah, a lot of concentration to the start. Often important moves are done related to the start or the opening lap. When the grip level is still not consistent, the drivers can make a big difference. Jason McCarthy, we know he's really aggressive driver, but we've seen so far in this season that maybe his pace in the race varies a little bit. So interesting to see if him with his crew of Wide World Ferrari has found something also for the race distance, and for sure our pole sitter Jason McCarthy will go for that win.
Of course, and Jason McCarthy has taken one win this year. Jason McCarthy then he took that win in Laguna Seca. He'll be hoping for the same today, and he's given himself the best possible starting position going from P1 on the grid. And psychologically, that would mean a lot for him. He was able to best all the other drivers when it came to the qualifying session earlier on. So it seems a long way around this track then when the cars are on their formation lap, ready to go racing, and yeah, very much looking forward to this. The safety car will peel off into the pit lane. It will be the responsibility of Jason McCarthy and Roberto Perina to control the pace of the rolling start. Then always a rolling start in the Ferrari Challenge. The cars will line up in side-by-side grid formation. And providing that race control are happy with that grid formation, the cars will be released and we will be racing. Look how close they are right at the front, Tony. They're champing at the bit here.
Yeah, also P4 starting driver Dylan Medler really warming up his brakes. So it will be time to go now.
Okay, we split the screen so that you can see the start from two absolutely pitch perfect angles here. So we get ready for racing then. Safety car does peel off and the front row control the pace as they head towards the lighting gantry then, and the green flag to wave to start race one of our Ferrari Challenge Trofeo Pirelli weekend. And as you said, Tony, Dylan Medler is on a mission from the second row of the grid. So as the cars all head into turn number one, you can see some making moves, diving to the middle, and Dylan Medler certainly that P3 position, and one car getting tagged there, Tony, and into the barriers. So that is not an optimum start, but for Jason McCarthy, he did everything that he needed to do. As the rest of the cars come through then, and with that car in the barriers, then we know what that might mean, as Dylan Medler is trying to make waves in the early stages of this race, and the Trofeo Pirelli AM drivers with a white strip across the top of the windscreen. And well, it looked like it was a brilliant start from Tony Davis as well, who's made himself and pushed himself up the order, and that was absolutely critical for him going into this race. So Jason McCarthy, we've already said, he's quite a determined and quite an aggressive driver, and he is under pressure from Roberto Perina, there is no question about it, and both of them under pressure, of course, from Dylan Medler. We ride on board with Dylan Medler right now. And the collection driver Dylan Medler, who, as I mentioned, was racing just last weekend, so getting a lot of seat time in the Ferrari Challenge 296 car, just coming out a little bit. You can see the double yellows and the full course yellow now, which brings this race under temporary control then, and therefore no overtaking. So full course yellow is out then, the early stages of this race. No mistake, you picked up very early on, Tony. You could see that car being speared into the guardrail.
Yeah, interesting note from the start is starting from third place, Matthias Kompach had a really poor reaction, so he was way down. The whole line behind him was way down, so Dylan Medler was able to challenge Matthias into turn one, and then between those two drivers, with the change of position, just behind Matthias Kompach was the contact to the rear left, I think, of Matthias' car, and then that sent the red Ferrari spinning into barriers, and it was quite heavy hit.
Yes, it was John Bennett, I think, that got speared off into the barriers. So, and there we can see the car lay stricken, having bounced out of the barriers on the track. There, the recovery team will work hard to get the car back, of course, and for us to go back to racing. Let's take a look at a replay here, Tony.
Yes, so on the left-hand side, the second car, Matthias was way behind. He catches a little bit on the straight line, but Matthias loses the place. Bennett is the fifth car, and then Matthias changes a little bit the line and taps the nose of Bennett's car and sends him spinning. It was a big hit.
Yeah, that was quite an impact, wasn't it? The integral safety, of course, of the 296 Challenge car is absolutely brilliant, and thank goodness for that, because the Foreign Cars Italia driver John Bennett then right at the start of the race finding himself into the barriers, and yes, so as the race continued then, it was always the likelihood that we were going to get a full course yellow, and that the cars would come under the control of race control right in the very early stages of this race. Of course, the clock continues to tick down with the safety car leading the drivers away, and now you can see their vigorous weaving from side to side from Dave Musial 2.0, trying to maintain temperature into those tyres. But just seeing where that John Bennett car was, Tony, it's going to be a couple of minutes before they can get that recovered.
Yeah, I don't think Matthias Kompach did it on purpose.
No.
On the start, the gaps are really closed down, and all the reactions, they go by the instinct. He didn't have any time to control if there is car on his left-hand side, and he was just focused in front of him. Dylan Medler just was able to overtake him, so very unfortunate situation. For the start itself, for the opening lap, Perina was really trying to look for that overtaking chance for McCarthy, and even some corners I think McCarthy did with a too tall gear, trying to use the gears that you normally use on a qualifying lap, and the tires were not ready for that, so he was losing time in this section of the track, so was quite close that Perina was almost looking for that overtaking opportunity.
And for me, Roberto Perina, whilst he was trying to overtake, of course Dylan Medler was trying to follow in his wheel tracks as well, because he looked very, very lively. And well, Brian Cook, I mentioned that Tony Davis had vaulted some at the start. Tony Davis moved up 3 places. Now Dave Musial moved up 6 places at the start of the race. So Dave Musial and Tony Davis obviously meaning business, and Brian Cook's going to have his rear view screen full of the Tony Davis car come the restart, that's for sure. And also Jason McCarthy and Roberto Perina and Dylan Medler, well, they're going to have Kompach as well. Let's go down to Amanda Busick with news on Dave Musial.
Yeah, while we have a little time to talk a little bit about some of our drivers, I was catching up with Dave Musial earlier in the day, and he was talking about this 296 platform and just how the confidence and trust is building with him as a racing driver. But he said that if you're not scared of these Ferraris, then that's the problem. He said you have to drive them on the edge to really get what you want out of them, but that's where the trust in this chassis comes from. But once you believe in it, that it can become amazing. And I know we're going to hope to see that out of Dave Musial here today, but got to go back to that restart for him. He did start P9 on grid in his class all the way up to 3rd.
I know, it was fantastic progress from Dave Musial, who clearly has got trust in that 296 Challenge car as he and it work together as one. So yes, a very good progression rate right at the very start of the race, with not even a full lap completed, and it vaulted a number of places. And the same is true of Tony Davis, up to P2 within class, P9 overall, but Brian Cook, of course, leading the Ferrari Challenge Trofeo Pirelli AM class at the moment. So the cars then remain under the control of the safety car for this full course yellow. The recovery operation, I feel sure, is going on as Tony Davis just ahead of Dave Musial there, weaving from side to side. He is the driver that's P2 in the Ferrari Challenge Trofeo Pirelli AM race. The Continental Autosports driver is 2nd in class, P9 in the overall order. And we'll just pick up here, I suspect, how we're getting on with the recovery operation here. So team are down there working as fast as they can to get the car. It's already on the low loader, I believe. So don't think we're going to be too long, Tony, before we go back to racing. So for the drivers, I'm guessing it's maintaining focus, just trying to keep some temperature into those tyres, getting ready to go again.
Yeah, I think the most important thing is trying to keep the car on the racing line. Don't go out of that line and pick up the dirt that is on the track onto your tires. After that is, yes, trying to warm up the tires, but it's really quite limited how much you can do. It's more of a concentration to be ready at the restart. Don't leave two big gaps to the car in front of you, and be ready to go racing when we get the green flag. It's either this lap or next one, I think, that the safety car will come in.
The all-black 296 car you were watching there of John Horsch, who's running P4. Now, this is the driver that's P2 in the race overall, and certainly P2 in Ferrari Challenge Trofeo Pirelli, Roberto Perina. And the number 55 car then for Ferrari of Seattle running P2 at the moment. So probably the remainder of this lap, plus one more, we think, behind the safety car before we can go back to racing. And Frank Chang has pulled the car off into the pit lane, another Ferrari of Seattle driver. So this is Dylan Medler then, third, and for my money, Dylan Medler looked so lively at the start. His car almost as one with the Roberto Perina car, as they're both trying to find a way past Jason McCarthy. And if the race ended now, the live championship would be this, with Dylan Medler leading 4 points ahead of Roberto Perina, then Matthias Kompank, then Dave Musial Jr., and then it would be Martin Burrows, who regrettably is missing this weekend and not racing. So look forward to seeing Martin Burrows back on track real soon. So that would be the championship if it were to finish right now, which of course it won't, and I suspect there will be some more changes to the chapter of this story during the course of the race when we go back to the green conditions. So Jason McCarthy, P1 for Ferrari Challenge Trofeo Pirelli. For Trofeo Pirelli Am at the moment, Brian Cook is P1. So the mix of Pirelli and Pirelli Am drivers driving the all-new for 2024 Ferrari Challenge 296 cars, which are, I am told, so rewarding to drive. An absolutely superb car that has been designed and manufactured by Ferrari for the Ferrari Challenge, and of course for lots and lots of other racing as well. The 296 car that you can see a full grid of racing here at Watkins Glen, our fourth round of our calendar for 2024. From here we head off to the Sonoma Raceway in California. Then it is Indianapolis, ahead of the Finale Mondiale in Italy at the Imola circuit. But for now, all our focus is on where we're at, Watkins Glen, with Ferrari of Lake Forest driver Dave Musial Jr., Dave Musial 2.0, who gave us a hot lap on board a little bit earlier on. Did a fine job in describing just how this track works for the drivers and what you need to do and where you need to place the car. And I have been absolutely amazed, certainly through the free practice sessions and the qualifying sessions, just how really bold and brave the drivers are across the curves, taking as much as they can. And final stages of the clear-up operation on the way. And remarkably, Tony, we're into just 19.5 minutes of the race remaining. It's going to be a real sprint race, isn't it, when we do get back to the greens?
Yeah, unfortunately we are losing a little bit of time, a little bit of racing time here, but hopefully the car and the track will be cleared very soon. There is some filler on the track which takes out the liquid that the car left on the track, so on the first couple of laps drivers need to be careful going through that area of the track.
Trofeo Pirelli Am Live Championship would see Brian Cook leading on 206 points, maintaining his position at the top of the Trofeo Pirelli Am chart. Tony Davis would be P2. Dave Musial would be vaulted up to P3 ahead of Frank Chang, and John Horsch running P5, also moving up a place. So 206 points would be the tally for this driver that we're watching right now. And that is Brian Cook, who of course earned a point through qualifying the car P1. It's those tiny points can make such a difference come the end of the championship season. You get a point awarded for pole position. There's also a point up for grabs for the fastest lap in the race, Tony. And just those little points, you know better than anybody else, having raced as much as you have. Every point in the bag is a really important and valuable point.
Yeah, for this championship and the way the points are, consistency is the key. Sometimes accept that 4th or even 5th place instead of going for over-optimistic move. So consistency and scoring those points every start is the key here.
Okay, so we are not far away from going back to racing. Every driver will be champing at the bit, and they include John Horsch there in the number 67 car, who drives, of course, for Ferrari of Vancouver. And John really looking very promising here, in my opinion, at the Watkins Glen weekend. And John Horsch, whose best finish has been 3 P6s. He took P6 in both the races at Montreal and opened his account this season with a P6 in Kota as well. Being told that the lights are out on the safety car, so the full course yellow will be coming to an end. It will be the responsibility of Jason McCarthy. Now, he is in charge of the pace of the restart, isn't he? But once he accelerates, he has to stay accelerated, Tony.
Yeah, it is true. So the safety car will pull away. The whole line of cars will slow down a bit. And once, like you said, the leader decides to go, he's not allowed to brake anymore. This is to prevent any dangerous situations. But now we are close to the area where he can go back to the racing speed.
So Roberto Perina and Dylan Medler will both be anticipating, or trying to anticipate, when Jason McCarthy is going to give it 100% on the loud pedal, which he does right about now. Let's go back to racing then. Ferrari Challenge, Trofeo Pirelli and Trofeo Pirelli out. A good start from Dylan Medler. Roberto Perina is under stress here going into turn 1. Dylan Medler has put his car to the inside. He takes to the curbs. Roberto Perina just is able to close the door on Dylan Medler. Well, Dylan anticipated the get-go probably better than Roberto Perina did, and therefore he was almost able to wrestle away that P2 position. But whilst these two scrap over P2, of course, it's playing into the hands of Jason McCarthy, who's able to escape up the road. So Jason McCarthy leading Roberto Perina and Dylan Medler and Matthias Kompak, Dave Musial and Michael Petromalo and Joe Rubo. And Brian Cook, P1 for the Trofeo Pirelli AM drivers, as we keep our eyes on Dylan Medler, who looked very, very lively right at the start of the race. And Brian Cook has broken away, reasonably so, from Tony Davis. 5 or 6 car lengths between the P1 and P2 drivers in the Trofeo Pirelli AM class. And the first of those you can just see at the back of this shot now with the white strip across the top of the windscreen. That is Brian Cook, who's had a fantastic season so far and is hoping to really cement his position in the Drivers' Championship points at the moment. Lots of overtaking potentials, and drivers taking a look at where they can place their cars. To Michael Petromalo really having a go, but what he doesn't want to do is leave himself vulnerable to Joe Rubo, who's right behind him as well. So this is quite a fight that's going on for P5, 6 and 7 at the moment between Joe Rubo, Michael Petromalo and Dave Musial Jr. Now, on the back of that pack is the number 28 car of Joe Rubo, the Ferrari of Long Island driver, and Brian Cook is right with him. I love that camera angle. It gives you just a complete example of how quick these 296 Challenge cars are as they roar past the guardrail here at Watkins Glen. Loving it. So Joe Rubo and Michael Petromalo, then the live gap on the graphics to the left-hand side of your screen, as Jason McCarthy continues to maintain his trajectory of trying to build as much of a margin between himself and Roberto Perina as he can. And, well, Dylan Medler looked really lively at the restart, but now he's dropped back a bit, Tony.
Yeah, in the end was a really clean restart. Like you said, Dylan Medler was the one trying to make moves. He had a really good acceleration on the main straight, but then Perina left the space, just enough space for the overtaking attempt, but in the end from the outside he could still keep the advantage, and now we're going in the same order as we were prior to the restart.
Yes, so we're on board with the Collection Ferrari driver, and that is Dylan Medler, and here is Tony Davis then. And whilst Tony Davis will want to get on terms with Brian Cook, he's also very minded that what he doesn't want to do is leave himself vulnerable to Dave Musial, who is very close to him. This is a fight for P2 in Trofeo Pirelli AM, so Dave Musial chasing Tony Davis at the moment Think of the long haul and the championship, and that will certainly be uppermost in Tony's mind. Brian Cook having broken away from them, but then something like a four-way battle that could be going on for this P2 place with Tony Davis P2, Dave Musial P3, and John Horsch P4. Those are the Trofeo Pirelli AM drivers. So Tony Davis there defending his position, but I have to say Dave Musial is looking very lively, and Brian Cook is just almost rubbing his hands with invisible soap, because as they're fighting over that P2 place, he of course is able to almost stick it to the Trofeo Pirelli drivers.
Yeah, he's lapping last lap a second quicker than the group behind him, and again a second and a half faster than the battling group behind him. So this is playing really well into hands of Cook, who is leading the Pirelli AM class.
So Tony Davis then is at the moment able to escape a little bit, because Dave Musial's rear view screen is full of John Horsch. Amanda Busick, you can tell us more about Tony Davis.
Yeah, and if you're not already a fan of Tony Davis, I'll add a little nugget of information. Tonight, he is going to be responsible for the fireworks show that we're going to see here at Hospitality as we celebrate all things Ferrari within the championship tonight right here at Watkins Glen. You go back to a year ago at Road America. Dave, I'm sure that for me it was the best fireworks display that I had ever seen, but we talk about fireworks. He comes off of that Montreal performance that he swept the weekend. He did have a podium earlier in the year at Laguna, second in the points. So talk about championships as we get halfway through this season. I like these fireworks between Brian Cook and Tony.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, and well picked up on, and the fireworks on track maintain at the moment. And here we can see Sebastian Mascaro under pressure from Brad Falber. Something loose on the car there. I'm sure Tony's got his eye on that, and I'm talking about Tony Verlander rather than Tony Davis, who's centre shot right now, still being chased by Dave Musial. Now Musial, who's running in P3 here, he is trying to attack Tony Davis ahead, but he's also going to be minded that he's got to defend from John Horsch, who looks very lively as well. John Horsch would dearly love to take a podium here. And so Dave Musial is in this awkward position of hunting and being hunted at the same time. So what he doesn't want to do is leave himself vulnerable by trying to overtake Tony Davis and then finding that he loses that P2 position that he's got. So there is Tony Davis, currently P2. I remind you that Dave Musial is P3, but he is quicker than Tony Davis by 6 1/1000ths on that last lap. It's all very well being quicker than the car in front of you. You've got to find a way by as well. And at the moment, Dave Musial is, well, I would say not close enough to even be able to contemplate that. And Tony Davis is not known for making mistakes. He's pretty focused and concentrated on exactly where he needs to place his 296 Challenge car. But Musial's got a bit of a run on him now as they tackle the curbs then on this bus stop. I love this part of the circuit. And Sebastian Mascaro, despite that little loose piece on the front of the car, it doesn't seem to be impacting or affecting his performance, Tony Verlander.
Yeah, there was a contact at the original start where he lost the one piece of the front splitter, and it's been there for a few laps now, and it doesn't really seem to bother him and his performance that much.
You're absolutely right. Meantime, Roberto Perina has got back closer to Jason McCarthy, and here is Michael Petromalo beginning to worry Dave Musial Jr. So Dave Musial Jr. is having to make his 296 a bit wider than it really is, and metaphorically stick his elbows out to prevent Michael Petromalo from coming through. This is a fight that's going on for P5 in Trofeo Pirelli. Then the cars with the red strip across the top of the windscreen, the Ferrari Challenge Trofeo Pirelli drivers. Mixed, of course, with our Trofeo Pirelli AM drivers. The first one of those you are about to see, or were about to see, and that is Brian Cook, who's leading in that class. But the 7 Trofeo Pirelli drivers in this, the first 5 of those are really, really close together. Make that 6, make that 7. Jason McCarthy has got a gap of about a second over Roberto Perina for the moment, and here is our race leader, Jason McCarthy then. For Wide World Ferrari, he does double duties across the Ferrari Challenge Racing weekend, racing not only in the Trofeo Pirelli with the 296 car, which he right royally throws through the bus stop and sets the fastest lap, which would be another point gained for Jason McCarthy if it stayed that way, and the double duty I was mentioning, because he's also racing in the 488 Challenge in Trofeo Pirelli as well. So Plenty of driving activity for Jason McCarthy, and well, Roberto Perina, a good showing from him, running in P2 and certainly keeping Jason McCarthy very keen, because the gap between them is merely a second long. There's John Horsch. John is one of our Trofeo Pirelli AM drivers, currently running P4 in that class. It's P11 in the race overall, and Tony Davis and Dave Musial can continue their fight for the P2 position. This is our Trofeo Pirelli AM leader, Brian Cook, and as you can see, by virtue of the fact that the fighting that's going on behind, he's been able to escape up the road, and he's in a fairly privileged position here, Tony, of having many car lengths to his advantage.
Yeah, Brian is in a perfect place, so he doesn't need to worry of the pressure behind him, and all this group here is still fighting for the second and third place in this race. And like you said, this group is forming to a 3, 4, even 5 car group, and everything can still happen here. 7.5 minutes to go.
Yes, the second place party that we're watching at the moment, and well, Dave Musial, John Horsch, Sebastian Mascaro would all like an invitation to that P2 place. Whilst Tony Davis is not likely to issue invitations, he is certainly having to work really hard. We ride on board now with Jay Logan. Jay Logan running P17 at the moment. He's got the Frank Szczesniak car ahead of him. Now Frank Szczesniak into the 296, having raced the 488 challenge for most of the season. And Frank Szczesniak getting very nicely to grips with this Ferrari Challenge 296 car, and love these onboard shots. And we stay on board with Jay Logan at the moment. The rear view screen you can see in the middle of the dashboard there, brought about because of a big safety bulkhead behind the drivers, which prevents a rear view mirror, a traditional rear view mirror, being hung on the windscreen. The drivers much prefer having that screen. It's a more immersive view that they have, and a better all-round look at what's behind them. Though every racing driver will tell you, don't spend too much time looking at that screen or indeed any mirror. Focus on going forward and fighting at the front, and Jason McCarthy is still being kept very keen by Roberto Perina, the Ferrari of Seattle driver, versus the wide world Ferrari driver at the moment for that B1 position. Dylan Medler looked very lively right at the start of the race, but has really rather fallen into the clutches of Matthias Kompak and Dave Musial Jr. and Michael Petromalo as well. And there Dylan Medler goes through on that brilliant camera on the guardrail for us, giving us just a fantastic indication of how quick these Ferrari Challenge 296 cars are. Just 5.5 minutes to run, Tony. Where's the overtake? Where are the overtakes going to come from in this race?
Yeah, the good places are into turn 1 and also bus stop, but you need to have a really good run, feel and get that slipstream. Again, if the driver that you are overtaking is really aggressive, you can go side by side here, several corners. So you can see most of the leading cars now, they're moving a little bit more under braking, so those tires are losing just a little bit of grip. You could see Perina earlier on, McCarthy had an issue in the braking. Also, Matthias Kompak, he touched the inside curb into turn 1, because you really don't know how much understeer there is and where is the right braking point as the tires wear out a bit.
It was great to be on board with Jay Logan whilst Tony was describing that, as he got ever closer to Frank Szczesniak ahead of him. So Sebastian Mascaro is currently running in at P12 place in the race overall, but his place in class is P5. Lots going on in terms of drivers trying to position themselves to try and move themselves up one place. So through the guardrail goes John Horsch. Then it is Sebastian Mascaro, Brad Falva, Omar Balkasu, Michael Mathis, all drivers of rich pedigree and a rich determination as well. So Sebastian Mascaro under pressure from Brad Falva and Omar Balkasoon, and Michael Mathis is not so far off that group as well. There you can see it's just like an end plate on that splitter that's come adrift on the Sebastian Mascaro car, and clearly not impacting the performance of the 296 Challenge car, or indeed its handling. He is holding on to this position really rather well, running in P5 in the class of Trofeo Pirelli and P12 in the race overall. Fastest laps have come from our two race leaders, Jason McCarthy and Brian Cook, and Bear in mind, another point is attracted for fastest lap in the race. So, Dave Musial, who has probably been a bit tired of looking at the back end of the Tony Davis car. So what can Dave Musial do? Where can he do it? Can he get close enough? And is it difficult to run in the dirty air when you're immediately behind the car? Well, he's beginning to light up his pace now, and you can see through the bus stop he's getting ever closer to Tony Davis. Tony Davis P2, Dave Musial P3, and that looks like one of the closest battles out there on track. However, there's plenty going on in Trofeo Pirelli as well, as Joe Rubo and Michael Petramalo are arguing over this P6 place. They get closer than previous. So Michael Petramalo, and here's Joe Rubo taking a look at the inside line, just moved out of the wheel tracks of Michael Petramalo just for a moment, but nothing doing as they climb uphill right now. Michael Petramalo remains P6, and Joe Rubo then is in that P7 position. So Jason McCarthy continuing to lead from Roberto Perina with just 8 tenths between P1 and P2. It's been great driving from Perina to keep with Jason McCarthy for virtually the entire race. But we're watching the fight that's going on for P6 and P7 at the moment. We'll know that with 2 minutes remaining, which actually will probably equate to 2 laps of racing for the Ferrari Challenge Trofeo Pirelli cars. Here's Musial then, beginning to just try and track Tony Davis, but I have to say, I think Tony has got this completely under control. Meantime, further back down the order, the inside line proves to be the one that works. And, well, there you can see 2 positions lost all in one there. And unfortunately, once the hole was opened, then it played into the advantage of Brad Fowler and Omar Balkasoon. So here you can see now this fight is far from over yet as the cars go side by side going into the next turn almost. Absolutely brilliant stuff here. A car's just looking very, very good through that bus stop chicane. Omar Balkasoon then driving the number 33 car. And really taking it to Sebastian Mascaro initially, and then Brad Fowler as well. And they were both able to take advantage of the hole that was created. Meantime, Dave Musial has not been able to get close enough to Tony Davis, which makes me think that Tony's playing the long game here and thinking about banking the points. Brian Cook, well, is disappeared so far up the road. And with 30 seconds on the clock remaining for this Ferrari Challenge Trofeo Pirelli Race 1 for our Pirelli and Pirelli Am drivers, time is beginning to run out. And this is the fight for P2 in the race. Brian Cook, as I say, is far enough up the road that he hasn't got to worry too much. Dave Musial is, if I'm honest with you, it's looked like he's been trying to sight where is going to be a big and a good opportunity, but Tony Davis has just had everything under control. He's placed the car perfectly, so there's been no opportunity for Dave Musial at all. Final lap of this Ferrari Challenge Trofeo Pirelli race, and here you can see Roberto Perina now has lit up the wick, knowing it's just the remainder of this lap is all that he's got to try and wrestle away that P1 from Jason McCarthy. I think Perina seems to have been the quickest car, but it's all very well being quicker. You've got to find a way by, and Jason McCarthy's a wily driver. He knows where to place that 296, and Perina there is flashing his lights in the hope of just breaking the concentration of Jason McCarthy for just a millisecond. That would be enough for him to try and come through, but thus far he's failed to do that as they climb uphill over the crest and run downhill right now. You can see how these two have broken away from Dylan Medler. Surely Jason McCarthy has done enough as Roberto Perina slides the car a little bit as the grip being asked is perhaps not there now come the end of the race. So it's been super smooth from Jason McCarthy, who hasn't really looked under threat, although the constant threat of Roberto Perina has been there. But his final efforts then as the car was sideways proving too much, and as they head towards the checkered flag, It is going to be Jason McCarthy victorious ahead of Roberto Perina and Dylan Medler. And for the Trofeo Pirelli AM drivers, Brian Cook, who's going to take the checkered flag a long distance ahead of those challenging of Tony Davis and Dave Musial, as Brian Cook takes another win in Ferrari Challenge Trofeo Pirelli AM. He takes the checkered flag ahead of Tony Davis then, who crosses the line. Dave Musial has got past Tony Davis. My goodness me, in the bus stop he managed to get around him, and just from that shot, couldn't quite identify that, but it is Dave Musial that has got by Tony Davis right in the final stages of that race. Here it is in replay.
Yeah, Tony Davis was in trouble coming into bus stop 2 laps earlier. He had a poor entry going into that corner, and now he almost lost it. So a lot of pressure. This is a good example how in the race sometimes we say you keep that pressure on until the checkered flag, and this played out for Musial, and he was able to finish P2.
With no disrespect to Dave Musial, he was gifted that, wasn't he? As Tony Davis, as you say, he made that mistake, and don't need to be asked twice to take advantage of that. But Brian Cook, unquestionably the winner, and a very dominant performance from Brian Cook in Trofeo Pirelli AM, and a dominant performance from Jason McCarthy also in Trofeo Pirelli. So, wow, an interesting race that was, of course, shortened by the safety car intervention during that full course yellow, and that was for the John Bennett car that regrettably right at the start of the race found himself in the barriers. Wow, as you say, it's not over, is it, Tony, until it's over. So, you know, you've got to be ready to pounce and take advantage or opportunity that is gifted to you, and well, Dave Musial was there to take advantage.
Yeah, and also importance of the qualifying. It showed us that it wasn't easy to overtake in today's Pirelli race. Only 1 place change in the leaderboard, meaning that Dylan Medler was able to overtake Matthias Kompach at the start. After that, Perina had similar pace to the race-winning McCarthy, but just couldn't find, had to work almost like a double duty behind him, trying to look for that overtaking opportunity, and then also a little mistake on the last lap. So McCarthy definitely improving with his car, pure pace in qualifying, and now almost the whole race distance he was doing really well. Maybe the last few laps struggled again a little bit more than Perina, and he was able to close and come really close to him. But nice race, and these leading cars were doing really fast lap times the whole race distance, so impressive.
Okay, let's take a look at the confirmed results then, and our Trofeo Pirelli race, Jason McCarthy taking the win from Roberto Perina P2, Dylan Medler P3, then it was Matthias Perez Kompach, David Musial Jr., Michael Petramalo and Joe Rubo running out the top 7 in Trofeo Pirelli. Taking the win in Trofeo Pirelli and Brian Cook. He finished P8 in the race overall. Ahead of Dave Musial, who takes P2, P9 overall. Tony Davis takes P3, P10 overall. Then it was John Horsch, Brad Falver, Omar Balkasoon and Sebastian Mascaro ahead of Michael Mathis. And then it was Jay Logan, Frank Szczesniak and Frank Chang, John Bennett and Christopher Cagnazzi, who did not start the race. So, well, yeah, just proving how quick these 296 Challenge cars are. Absolutely awesome stuff from Ferrari Challenge Trofeo Pirelli, our Pirelli and Pirelli AM drivers then. And victorious, Jason McCarthy, the very car that you can see here. Double duties for Jason McCarthy, as I mentioned, racing not only in the 296 Challenge, but also in the 488 Challenge as well. And well done to him, and well done to Brian Cook, taking the honours in Trofeo Pirelli AM. So Jason McCarthy then bringing the car back to Parc Fermé. Be pretty pleased with his performance, and I have to say I'm really impressed with Roberto Perina, who didn't let him get away. You know, Tony, you know, you've got to stay within a chance, haven't you? You've got to stay close to the car ahead of you, and he was there, and just, you know, valiant effort to on the last lap certainly, but he just pushed a little bit too hard.
Yeah, like I said, the leading 2 cars were lapping almost a half a second quicker every lap compared to Dylan Medler and Matthias Kompach, so they had more pace, and it was just down to a starting position, because McCarthy was able to start from pole position and he kept his place throughout the race, but very small difference between these 2 cars.
I agree with you. Yep, cars very, very evenly matched. Of course, it's all down to the setups that the teams and drivers employ, and those setups, of course, are deliberately designed to suit the driving styles. Driving styles of drivers differ. Some prefer setups in a certain way, others prefer them in a different way. So here is the car of Jason McCarthy. Roberto Perina pulling in alongside. Just see the Dylan Medler car coming in as well. I have to say, the shot that we have with the cars run so close to the guardrail, which gives an indication of the speed. Just how close they get to that guardrail is absolutely fascinating and really enjoyable to watch and see and hear, actually, the sound of these cars and the speed that they can offer. So Ferrari Challenge, Trofeo Pirelli and Trofeo Pirelli Am done and dusted. Cope race to come, and of course 488 Challenge racing to come as well. So it's non-stop action. We try and bring you maximum value in the Ferrari Challenge, that's for sure. So the Brian Cook car parked up nicely. And Brian's going to be quicker out of the car than Jason McCarthy, I think. And part of the reason for that is because, of course, our cameraman was there getting the images of Jason McCarthy.
No. Let that hold around.
As out he dives from the car. Crash helmet, hands device, of course. Communications. So there is Jason. He'll be pretty pleased with that.
I think he even has some tape on his visor for the sun.
Yeah.
So the bottom part of the visor is completely blocked to drive with the open visor, but at the same time to block the sun a little bit.
Ah, yeah. Great notice there, Tony. Well done. So as the drivers are getting out of their cars then, the next set of racing cars are already heading towards the pit lane, and Jason McCarthy is victorious. He's with Amanda Busick.
And Jason McCarthy has done his job all day today, qualifying on pole in that Ferrari, backing it up with an excellent start to this race and then defending on that start. What aided to the pace that you found today?
Have a good car. It's well balanced. Played with just a few tweaks since Wednesday, and that's really it. It's been good since day one. And I don't know, just getting more comfortable with the car. And I knew towards the end that was going to be hard to pass unless I made a mistake, so I just dialed it down and made sure I hit my marks.
Well, your job is just now starting for today. How do you transition now to the 488?
Just hop right in. It's my car is not as strong there. It's well balanced. We can do we're doing the best we can with what we have, and I'm just going to try to do my best.
The mindset of a competitor, Dave. Race 1 winner here at Watkins Glen, Jason McCarthy.
Well done, Jason. Very interesting, as he says, that he knew he was going to come under pressure towards the end of the race, but he just dialed it in to make sure he hit every apex that he needed to. In the Drivers' Championship, Dylan Medler retains his P1 position on 185 points. Roberto Perina then P2 on 179, then Matias Perez compact. Ahead of David Musial Jr., Martin Burrows, John Bennett, Jason McCarthy now P7 in the points, and Joe Rubo is P8. Ahead of Michael Petramalo, Jeremy Clark, Christian Podoliccio, and Brett Curtis. That's the way the Pirelli Drivers' Championship looks following that race. Now for the Pirelli Am Drivers' Championship, Brian Cook, well, as you can see, 9 points ahead of Tony Davis, P2, Frank Chang, P3. David Musial now P4 in the Drivers' Championship, points ahead of Benoit Bergeron, John Horsch, Sebastian Mascaro, and Brandon Cruz. They are the top 8. Ahead of Michael Mathis, Jay Logan, Omar Balkasoon, Chris Cagnazzi, Brian Kaminsky, Brad Falver, and Ben Gudenzi. Running P15 ahead of Frank Szczesniak, who of course takes to the Pirelli Am Drivers' Championship this weekend in the 296. And with Brian Cook now victorious is Amanda Busick.
Yeah, David, he was just telling me how Dave Musial is one of his good friends right now since he got around Tony Davis there towards the end of the race. But even speaking of that, we are now halfway through this season. Have you let your mind go to championship?
Yeah, I guess I try not to think about the championship too much and just focus on each race and executing and corner by corner. So, yeah, but it's good. It's good to be in a great spot. Can't complain about that.
There was good domination here today. When you look ahead to tomorrow's race, is there anything you might work on ahead of that?
Hope we can learn from today and go a little bit faster. Luckily enough, we had some time to manage the pace and not go too hard. But we'll see what happens. Dave's getting faster every time he goes around, so we'll see how we go.
Congratulations, Brian. Dave, is there ever enough speed for these guys?
Clearly not. Clearly not. They need more and they want more. And Brian congratulated there, and that's great to see. Oh, what a lovely shot that is. So there we have it. We've heard from our drivers then in Trofeo Pirelli and Trofeo Pirelli Am. And that's it from Ferrari Challenge Trofeo Pirelli. The Copa Shell follows very, very soon. Bye-bye for now.